Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's product demo, Elevate Your Leadership with Supervisory Skills Questionnaire, hosted by HRDQ-U and presented by Patti Massullo. My name is Sarah, and I will moderate today's product demo. Our time together will last around 1 hour. If you have any questions or comments, please type them into the question box on your GoToWebinar control panel there, and we'll answer as many questions as we can during our time together today. And we'll follow up via email with any outstanding questions that you may have. You can also download the handouts today under the Handouts tab on your GoToWebinar control panel. And I'd like to welcome our presenter today, Patti Massullo. Patti is a certified leadership and professional development coach and Maxwell Disc trainer. She has been an entrepreneur most of her adult life, owning both online and offline businesses. Patti has mastered the art of communication, using proven strategies to help businesses create compelling new ways to connect in every area of their life, both at home and in the workplace. Also certified in mental health and brain health, Patti is passionate about how people are wired and thrives on helping individuals and companies work and play to their strengths. Thanks so much for joining us today, Patti.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much for that introduction. Well, welcome everybody. Good afternoon. Good to see you today. Today we're going to be talking about the importance of supervisory skills and the fact that it's a critical component for organizational success. And you might say, well, why is it a critical component? Basically because it directly influences employee performance, it influences team dynamics, and just overall efficiency of the team, because supervisors are the link between the managers really and the employees. The manager typically has a broader scope of responsibility, responsible for larger teams and units and things like that. So we're going to do some little polls and activities throughout the presentation. And the first one is, if you could describe supervision in one word, what would it be? And then just explain why you chose that choice. And even if you're not in a supervisory role now, what do you think supervision means in one word? If you could just do that, and Sarah will just read me some of the responses.
Yes, so type your response in the questions box there. We'll give you a moment to do that as you're typing in, and then we'll share off some of what we have. We have leadership, collaboration, mentor, growth. What else do we have? Type that into the chat box there. Role model,
Yeah, oh, those are good.
guidance. Those are some of the responses that we're receiving.
Okay, good. Well, those are all really good. Those are all things that you're going to see as we move along. All of those things are integrated into the presentation as well. So let's talk a little bit about what our learning outcomes are going to be for today. First is, what are the qualities of a good supervisor? The benefits of knowing your supervisor skills. We're going to evaluate performance in the 5 supervisory skills, which we'll go into detail about in just a few minutes. Tips and best practices for training, developing a plan to use in your specific company, and then how HRDQ can actually help you in that process. So what is a supervisor? A supervisor refers to anyone who directs and is responsible for others, including all of the things that you mentioned. Those are all qualities of good supervisors. They're really closer to the frontline workforce, and they report to the managers. So what is the actual role of a supervisor? Well, first is to drive performance. Okay, so they need to motivate the employees to meet their goals. And then they have to manage diversity, because let's face it, everybody leads teams with all kinds of varied backgrounds, right? And then, of course, communication. We have to communicate clearly. In order to share the information and the expectations, we have to be able to be a good communicator. And then thinking critically. We have to analyze problems. We have to make decisions. We have to solve problems. And we first have to identify the issue and then find solutions. And usually we have to do that pretty quickly, right? And then we encourage innovation, foster creative thinking and ideas, and of course, then develop the actual talent. We want to support the growth of the people that we're supervising and help them with skill building as well. So supervisors connect that manager's plans with the employees' actions, right? So they're accountable to both the management as well as their employees. And if you are in a supervisory role, you already know this, but you have many, many hats that you wear. You're a director, you're a navigator, you're a problem solver, you have to be a diplomat sometimes, a coach, and a role model. And I know some of these things you mentioned in your answers. So what are the benefits of knowing your supervisory skills? The first one is enhanced leadership effectiveness. What do we mean by that? Well, it's your direct ability to be able to guide, influence, and inspire the people that you're supervising. And then, of course, improved communication. We always need more clarity. We need to learn how to be active listeners. Those are all part of good communication. And then better decision making. Even in uncertain situations or high pressure situations, we have to learn how to make decisions, sometimes on the fly, right? Increase productivity. You'll know where your time is best spent when you really get a hold of that productivity. And then there's professional growth. And that's being able to actually set those clear goals as well. And what about conflict resolution, right? Supervisory skills provide tools and approaches that are necessary to manage those disputes because, let's face it, every team has some kind of conflict at one point or another. And then, of course, employee development. We want to help employees grow better. And when we know our own skills, we're able to do that better. So now we're going to go to our first poll, and that is, how well do you think your team collaborates? Now, even if you're not in a supervisory role right now, you can still answer this question based on your team. Would you say it's excellent, good, average, or poor? If you could just type that in the chat, that would be great.
So we actually have a poll for this one. So we have that poll launched there. So you'll be able to submit those answers there, and then
that's right.
we'll
Okay.
show those up on the screen. So we have responses streaming in. We will give you 15 more seconds here. We have about 65% of you voted so that you can submit your vote before we talk about the results. Okay, and 5 seconds for any last minute voters. Wonderful. Okay, so we have those results up there. Do you see those on your side, Patti?
I don't, because I have these two other screens up. So
Yeah.
if you could just share a little bit about what you see.
Yeah, we have 21% who said excellent, 32% said good, 42% said average, and 5% said poor.
Well, that's great. That's great. It looks like a lot of the teams are collaborating well. I love the fact that there's some excellent ones, but good and average is usually what we see more of than anything else, which hence the reason for training like this, to be able to know what our supervisory skills are and how to better enhance them. So why is this all so important? Just based on some studies, back from 2016, the Journal of Occupational and Organizational Psychology said that supervisors with strong interpersonal skills lead to higher job satisfaction. That was one study that was done. And then there was a Gallup research that said that managers drive 70% of employee engagement variance. And then the SHRM study, which is the Society for Human Resources Management, they say effective supervision is key to employee retention. And they are right there on the front lines with HR. That's what they do. That's their main thing. So yeah, so that's extremely interesting. So we want to talk about what the qualities of a good supervisor are, right? So the first one is strong communication skills. And as we said before, communication is key, right? We have to be able to communicate well with other people, because if we don't communicate, then nobody knows what's going on if they're not communicated too well. And then there's having empathy, which is not the same thing as sympathy. Having empathy for people and being able to put yourself in their shoes. And emotional intelligence is more important than ever before now. And that's the ability to manage both your emotions and the people around you and the people that work for and with you. And then, of course, there's fairness and integrity. Those are all great qualities of a good supervisor. Leadership, having good leadership and vision. Being able to problem solve, having those abilities to problem solve. Doesn't mean we're going to know how to solve every single problem, but we need to have the ability to be able to do so. And then, of course, delegation and empowerment. Delegation is, I think, a skill that a lot of people don't do well. I know I didn't do it well when I used to be in a supervisory role. I had a really hard time delegating things to people because, you always have that mentality that, oh, I could probably do this myself quicker. but that's not always the case. We need to learn how to delegate well. And then, of course, empowerment. We want to give people that have the skill and the ability to do what they are hired to do, right? We want to be approachable and supportive. Every good leader needs to be. And then, of course, we have to have great time management and organizational skills as well. So what's different about it today? Well, there's a lot of things different. First of all, technology is different, right? We have to be technology proficient. We have to know technology. Even though there may be people in our company that are in charge of the technology piece, we still need to be familiar with it because it's constantly evolving and changing, right? And then there's government regulation. So there's an increased focus on workplace harassment, discrimination, workplace safety and health issues, as well as navigating the remote and hybrid work situations that we see a lot of right now. And then, of course, we have collaborative leadership versus top-down management. So what does that mean? Those are two contrasting leadership styles. So for example, in a situation where if you had to make a decision, the collaborative leader is going to share that decision making with the team, and he's going to seek the input. He or she will seek input from that group. Where the top-down manager, as we know, is the one that makes the decision. There's little input from anybody else, and the team is really not involved in any of those decisions. Of course, flexibility, adaptability, we always have to be more flexible and adapt to the things that are changing on a regular basis, especially now with technology. There's more of a focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion than there were even just 10 years ago. Employee well-being and work-life balance. I do a lot of work with this because there's a lot of studies that have been done on mental health in the workplace, and it's not the same thing as mental illness. Mental health is just the state of where you are. Mental health can be affected by your physical space as well as any stress that's involved in the workplace and that kind of thing. And of course, then we have that evolving hiring process. That changes from company to company, and depending on what it is that you're looking for in an employee, that hiring process can be a little tricky sometimes. So that's different as well. This is the supervisory skills model that HRDQ uses. We have the supervisor in the middle, and then they get their direction from the organization. And then there are 5 supervisory skills, which we're going to go over each one of those next. So the 5 supervisory skills, which I will explain a little bit in detail about each one of them, are guiding the work, organizing the work, developing direct reports, managing performance, and then managing relations. So let's just take a quick look at each one of those. So the first one is guiding the work. Okay, so guiding the work is translating the direction of the organization into actionable plans, right? Things that we can actually sit down and look at and make a plan for. So the first thing is understanding that big picture. What is the big picture? What are we trying to achieve? Then we have to clearly define that, right, to everybody on the team. And then from there, we have to provide direction. Who's going to do what? Who's in charge of what with this particular project or whatever it is? And then make sure that we are well understood. And the only way we're going to know that is if we communicate clearly. So we have to communicate clearly as well. The next thing is organizing the work. So we have to assign the right people to the right tasks and provide the necessary resources to meet those goals. So the reason for that is because they're going to do things like impact the bottom line. They're going to place demands on employees sometimes where it needs to be placed. It's going to navigate that hierarchy, and it fosters transparency and trust and teamwork because people know they know what's expected of them. Then we have developing your direct reports. So knowing and actively working to increase the skill level of each supervised employee involves several different things. First of all, we have to understand each person's unique skills, right? Everybody comes to the table with different gifts and skills. And we have to understand what those are. And sometimes people are in the wrong role because their skills don't match the job that they're doing. We see that sometimes as well. And then mastering that delegation, again, something that I think a lot of people struggle with is being able to delegate well because it's so much easier to just do it ourselves. Then we have to set those clear expectations to everyone around us and emphasizing responsibility. I think when we give people a job to do, They can take pride in it when they know, when they're clear on what it is they're supposed to do. And then we emphasize to them, this is a big responsibility, but I know that you're up for the task. And that is important as well. And then, of course, we always have to provide that proper training for them. And then the next one is managing performance. So we want to remove any obstacles to better performance so employees can achieve their own as well as the company's objectives, right? So that involves things like recognizing that performance issues can stem from both the work environment and the employee. So if the work environment is not conducive to, people being able to get their job done, that could mean a lot of different things. It could be something as easy as, how cold or hot it is in the room, or how noisy it is, or what kind of job is trying to be done in that environment, things like that. And then, of course, providing continual coaching for those people, and addressing any performance issues. If there are performance issues, nipping them in the bud right away, and not waiting until there's a huge problem and a challenge that we wish we had taken a few steps backwards. And then, of course, setting those clear expectations right up front. This is what's expected. This is what we agreed to, and having it be clear. And then using self-feedback with employees. I love this because I have an example of this, not in the workforce, but my son, who is grown and married with a family now, but when he was in high school, he went to a charter high school. And it was a small school. If you know anything about charter schools, they're very small. And one of the things they did was when it came time for their reviews, their progress reports, the quarterly progress reports that they usually send home from the schools. Well, at the charter school, at least at this one, I don't know if this is true in every charter school, but at least at this one, what they would do is they would have the student, the parents, and the teacher together, and the student would lead the meeting. They would be the ones saying, okay, here's what my grade is in this class. They would do it with each teacher, by the way. This is what my grade is in this class. Here's where I'm struggling. Here's why, and here's what I can do to make it better. So they were able to buy into not only where their strengths and weaknesses are, but what can I do to make it better? How can I change it? How can I take that C and bring it up to a B, and that kind of thing? So I think using that self-feedback with employees is extremely important, because you're involving them, which is crucial. And then managing relations, developing and maintaining good relationships with other groups. So what do I mean by other groups? So for instance, like human resources, right? If there's a human resources department, the tech experts in the company, any regulatory bodies. This could be things like the FDA, the SEC, the EPA, depending on what kind of company it is. Then there's internal as well as external customers. And of course, as we've said before, communication is key. It is very important. Without communication, none of this even matters. You have to be able to communicate well. And then, of course, handling the conflict that is inevitable to arise in any situation, and keeping a balanced perspective. So next, what I want to show you are some examples of some assessment questions. These are things when you take the supervisory skills training, there are assessment questions. And I'm going to give you an example in each one of those 5 supervisory skill areas, just to give you an example of what it would be like. So the first one would be under guiding your work. So it says, your boss just gave you a new project. It seems important to the organization from what you know about it, but it means a lot of work for your group, and you're having a hard time seeing a big benefit for them. You're about to meet with your group. How would you handle this meeting? So that's one example. The next one is under organizing your work. There's a senior manager that has asked you to drop everything to complete a project for him or her. You can't get it done without missing other commitments. So what would you do? Then under developing your direct reports, you've decided to let one of your employees take over responsibility for one of your tasks. You're confident that the employee understands the job, but you want to make sure that transition goes smoothly, right? So how would you handle that transition? Then under managing performance, you have an employee who's really not focused. They tend to socialize a lot. They're starting to bother other employees. How would you handle that situation? And then lastly is under managing relations. There's a lot of new technology that's been installed in your area recently. A lot of times I see this a lot with companies where there's new computer systems, things that go up, and it's like it takes more time to learn the new system than it does to install it. Now there appears to be technical problems that are holding up the work of your group. How do you handle that? So that would be under managing relations. So the next question is another poll question, which you'll see the poll come up on your screen. How well do you think your team collaborates? Excellent, good, average, or poor?
And we have the poll launched here. And we'll give you a moment to answer. And we'll give you about 10 more seconds here before we get the results up on the screen. Okay, great. So now this time we have 26% saying excellent, 26% saying good, 42% saying average, and 5% saying poor.
Okay, so it looks like the majority are saying average of how their team collaborates. So again, hopefully you'll be able to pick up some tools and tips and see the value in the training that can help your team collaborate better. So how do you get the most out of the training if you were to take the training? So here's just some tips and best practices. First of all, you want to focus on core skills. So what does that mean, core skills? That's your soft skills. It's leadership, it's time management, it's problem solving, teamwork, communication, anything under the soft skill label. And then you want to customize that training to meet the organization's specific needs. So every company has a different need, right? So one company might have a huge issue in the area of communication. Another company might have issues with people collaborating well between departments. So there's lots of different needs. So you can customize the training based on what your company needs. And then you want to provide hands-on learning opportunities for them. And then you'll utilize the 180 assessment report. And that is a report where the direct reports will take this assessment, and it enables them to show the supervisors to see how they are perceived by their direct reports. So the supervisors will get these results to see how they're perceived as supervisors, and we all need that feedback, right? No matter what kind of role we're in, we need the feedback of knowing what our employees, our managers, our supervisors, whoever it is, are thinking of the job that we're doing, so that we can do that self-assessment ourselves and say, okay, here's where I need to do some work, here's where I'm doing well, and just knowing, rather than blindly lead a group of people and hope you're doing a good job, right? And then ask insightful questions about perceived supervisory challenges. Again, can be specific to the needs of your organization. You're going to have different challenges than maybe another company might have. And then you, of course, want to revisit key learning points on a regular basis, because there's nothing worse than learning something, putting it up on a shelf, and never doing anything with it, right? We need to implement, we need to follow up, we need to check in and see, is this actually working? Are we getting a return on our investment? Is somebody actually putting it into place to see if it works? Because sometimes we'll just say, oh, okay, I'll do that, and then we don't actually do it, right? So this is another poll question. And again, even if you're not in a supervisory role, I'd like you to answer this, because we all have different things. We could relate this to anything in our life, really. But what area of supervisory skills would you most like to improve? Would it be conflict resolution, time management, coaching and mentoring, decision making, or team building?
And we have responses streaming in quick this time.
Okay.
So we'll give you 15 more seconds here. We have about 50% of you voted before we share the results that we have. Okay, great. So we have 50% saying conflict resolution, 5% said time management, 23% coaching and mentoring, 9% decision making, and 14% team building.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sarah. So conflict resolution seemed to be the biggest that came out the largest, which is not uncommon. And so another reason why supervisory skills are so important, because a lot of people get confused on how to navigate the waters of conflict resolution. So next, what I want to do is show you some different things that you would get as part of the training if you were to take this supervisory skills questionnaire training. The first thing is this facilitator guide, okay? This is very comprehensive. The facilitator guide includes everything that you need to deliver a really good workshop, okay? And this is something that's very comprehensive. It's several pages and really extremely helpful from A to Z. Then you have a really nice PowerPoint presentation, but besides the fact of just being a PowerPoint, which helps you facilitate the workshop, it also has, icebreaker questions and things that you can do to get people involved in it rather than just teaching. You're getting people involved, and you're starting to think, where are some areas that we need to work in our team. And then we have the theory background, which is the theory behind why we even do supervisory skills, as well as a learning overview. And the learning overview goes into detail with what the learning outcomes are, who your audience is, which is anybody that is in a supervisory role or hopes to be in. And then, of course, the agenda. It goes into detail about the agenda, which is, it's usually about 4 hours and 10 minutes. If the person takes their assessment ahead of time, they can cut it by about 30 minutes, but normally it's about 4 hours and 10 minutes. And also, just by the way, it's ideal for like 24 people for this particular training. And then we have our HRDQ cards. And these are great. I love the Q cards. And the reason I love them is because I'm one that I would always have like little 3x5 cards, and I'd put notes to myself and remind myself of things. That's exactly what this is. This has the 5 key areas that we need to remember: the guiding the work, the organizing the work, developing our direct reports, managing performance, and managing relations. And it's got the little best practices right next to it. So it's just a reminder that we can have with us all the time to remind ourselves that these are the things that we want to be using as we are supervising others. And then there's a really nice poster. If you are doing this in person, you can hang this on the door of the training. If you're doing it out in a location, you can hang it in the lobby area, wherever it is that you are going to be doing the training if you're doing it in person. And then we have workbooks. Those come in packs of 5, and the workbooks are very comprehensive. They have all the information module by module, and there's even an area where you can take notes, which is great. And then we have the assessment. We have the online assessment or the paper assessment, and that is a choice. If you have someone that takes the online version, they would take that ahead of time. If you order the paper ones, they can also take that ahead of time, or they can do that during the training. That's totally up to you, depending on how much time you want to spend and that kind of thing. This is just a quick look at what a sample online assessment report would look like. You'll see on the one screen, it shows the diagram where it gives you the different 5 supervisory skills and the columns and the shaded areas of where we are doing, whether it's below average, average, or above average. So that's just a peek at what the assessment would look like. And then we have our quick start train the trainer. I'm partial to this because I'm one of the trainers that does the training, and I love doing this. This is a 1-hour prep for trainers. It's one-on-one with skill practice. It's delivered virtually and usually over Zoom or some type of online platform. And I'll tell you, with the quick start training, one of the things I want to say about this is that, so I've been doing this train the trainer with one of HRDQ's clients for about 6 months now. We've done several different trainings, and we still have a couple more to do. And this is a very experienced trainer. Okay, she knows how to train. She knows what she's doing. She's been doing this a long time. So it's not about teaching somebody how to be a trainer. What it does is it helps facilitate our training, the HRDQ model, and giving the best tips and techniques, and here's some ways to do this. And there's always something you can learn, because it's not just about being a good trainer. It's about taking the HRDQ material and incorporating that into the way you would normally do your training. So it seems to be extremely helpful for those that do take it. And then there's some FAQs, general program information, all the typical questions that people might ask, like, what is this program supposed to achieve? Who created it? What's so unique about it? How long is the workshop? How many people? Those kind of things. What components should I purchase? And again, that depends on your needs and what you're trying to do with the company. And then we have some certificate of achievements and some program evaluations. These are things optional that you can use if you choose to give to people. So how can you use this in your company? First of all, you want to have all your supervisors complete the assessment. That's the first step. That's really, really important that they all complete the assessment. Then you can schedule your workshop. You can enhance that facilitation with that train the trainer if you choose to. And then you're going to use those 5 supervisory skills to guide your daily work. And they literally are going to be guiding you every day in your work. So if you were preparing for the workshop, just here's some tips on what you would want to keep in mind. First of all, you want to allocate about 2 weeks to prepare for it, right? And then have your assessments completed, either paper or online. If you do it ahead of time, it does help save some time, but you can have them do it during the training, depending on how much time you want to allocate, because if it's already about 4 hours, you might want them to just do it ahead of time. Totally up to you. Utilize the facilitator guide as a tool to lead you in the session, because when you combine that facilitator guide with the PowerPoint, it really packs a punch for a great presentation. It gives you everything that you need. And then, of course, if you choose that optional train the trainer, what we do as the train the trainers is we take the facilitator guide as well as the PowerPoint slides, and we go through them with you so that you can say, okay, here's a good place to do this. And there's some great opportunities for you to ask questions based on your own personal needs for your company as well. And then we have a skill development game. This is where you can practice the skills learning in that Supervisory Skills Questionnaire in a live project. So this just makes things fun. This is optional, but depending on the team that you're working with, the type of company that you are, and all of that will depend on whether or not you use this. But I like it because it's one thing to have all the training, right? It's one thing to deliver the information to everybody. And I think if you are there because you have to be there and you're not really wanting to be there, it just breaks it up and helps it be a little more fun, because you can really learn a lot, even incorporating fun into it. So I love this as well. Then the participant materials. The participants will get, like I said, the assessment, and it takes them about 20 minutes to complete that. They have the online assessment and reports that are available. The online 180 assessment is also available if you choose that. Of course, the workbook, the HRDQ cards, and then the skill development game. Those are all optional things. And again, HRDQ will help you with deciding what's best for your company and what your needs are, because we do like to customize it based on what you need. So you might be asking by now, why the HRDQ model? And I will tell you that even though now at this point in my career, because I do training for a living and I'm not really in a supervisory role per se, but I was at one time when I worked in corporate, and I wish so bad I had these tools and resources, because they're pretty invaluable. First of all, they focus on those 5 skills that shape an effective supervisor's daily work, rather than just general skills. Okay, we're going to talk about communication. We're going to talk about leadership. There's so many things that fall under those categories. So this really tightens it up and gives you those 5 skills to work on. And then, of course, it's developed by HRDQ's research and development team. And these are like master level instructors, designers, statisticians. Several people put a lot of hard work into that. And then, of course, we do provide materials for both facilitators and the participants, which you don't always see that in trainings. And then it utilizes the experiential learning model to engage the learners and enable them to practice and apply their skills. So what do I mean by that? So if you look at the next screen, this is the experiential learning model. So I'm just going to quickly go through this so you can understand what it is. This is the one that HRDQ uses. And there's 7 different components. The first one is focusing, okay? So that is where the facilitator engages the learner, right? So that they can focus on learning. The second one is experiencing. So they facilitate the meaningful, relevant learning experience, so that as a participant, they can experience that new learning, the person taking the training. And then reflecting. We want to encourage processing and discussion so that the people taking it can also reflect on that experience, so that that really broadens their learning possibilities. And then thinking, introducing behavioral theory so that the learner can think critically about new ideas. And then modifying is number 5. That's where the facilitator would structure feedback and activity and help the learner interpret that so that they can then modify their behavior and their attitudes and their knowledge based on the feedback that they get. And in number 6, they're going to be practicing. So you set up and monitor learner practicing situations so they can apply their new learning to those practicing situations. And then lastly, integrating it all together, encouraging evaluation of learning, and they can integrate that new learning into the work that they're already doing. So next, we just want to talk about the fact that you can try us out. You can test drive the assessment for free. You can order the product and do your own review. You can try the product either with an individual or with your team. And there is a 30-day money-back guarantee. And you have the quick start train the trainer available, remember, so that, again, the trainers don't feel like they have to know every single thing. They can get some direction there. So you would just check your email for the next steps. You'll get an email if you signed up for this. And then, of course, we do have an email address, support@hrdq.com, if you have questions. And there's an 800 number on the screen as well. But we also want to leave some time now for you to be able to ask any questions that you have. Hopefully now you can see that how important it is to master these supervisory skills, especially in the ever-changing environment that we live in now, right? Things are changing every day in the workplace and the way we need to do things and the laws that we have to abide by, depending on what kind of company it is and that kind of thing. So I'd love to answer any questions that you have if you need clarity on something that we spoke about or something specifically about the product.
Yes, thank you, Patty. So let's open it up for questions now. If you do have a question, type it in the questions box there, and we will answer that for you today. So Patty, we have a question here. How can I effectively use the Supervisory Skills Questionnaire to identify areas for leadership improvement in my team?
Repeat the question one more time. To use the leadership qualities with what?
Yes, how can I effectively use the Supervisory Skills Questionnaire to identify areas for leadership improvement within my team?
Okay, good. Yes. Well, when you see the assessment, it goes through a lot of different types of questions that will help identify those different skills in people and where it'll give them a really good idea of where they are now and where they need to be. So it'll help you as a supervisor to be able to look at those assessments and really see leadership qualities even better than you might see them if you were just, based on what you know about the person or based on what you see in their everyday work. Sometimes when people are actually putting the pen to paper and doing the assessment, you see things that you wouldn't automatically see in day-to-day work because we're all busy doing something. So I think it would be extremely helpful in that area.
And then do you have some practical steps to enhance communication and delegation as a supervisor that's highlighted in the questionnaire results?
In the questionnaire results, as far as what they're going to be getting?
Yeah, so do you have any practical steps to enhance communication and delegation, utilizing the results that you receive from this assessment?
Yeah, I would say the best thing to do would be to take the assessment. And if you have everyone take the assessment and then you're going to do the workshop, you can also take individuals assessments and sit down one-on-one. That would be one good tip, I would say, is to sit down with people one-on-one and go over their assessment, not just for the purpose of going over it, but to be able to ask them questions, have them ask you questions, see if they see where it is that they need further help maybe in whatever it is that they're trying to accomplish with the job that they've been given.
And one more question here for you today, Patty. Can the Supervisory Skills Questionnaire be used for ongoing evaluation, or is it more of a one-time assessment?
Oh no, it can definitely be used for ongoing, because what happens is, let's just say somebody takes the assessment, right? Let's just say they're a new hire, for instance, and they take the assessment and you see certain things, right? Well, a year from now, They may be still in the same role, they might be in a different role, but things have changed now because they've been with the company for a while, and so their supervisory skills can definitely change. They can sometimes change for the good, sometimes not so good, and that's where you would need to go, step in and do that. Have that talk of, here's what you were hired to do, and are you comfortable with what you're doing, and maybe they need to be in a different role. So it's not a one-time situation at all. You can definitely use it over and over again, because things are going to change. Even for you as a supervisor, they're going to change as you get new employees, and things change in the workforce, in the actual work atmosphere, if that makes sense.
Great. Yes. And so that will conclude the Q&A portion of our time today. If you do have additional questions, make sure that you connect with us there. You can reach out to us at support@hrdq.com or that 800 number as well. And that here will wrap up today's webinar. Thank you so much, Patti, for your time today.
Thank you.
And thank you all for participating in today's product demo, I should say. Happy training, everyone.
Bye-bye.